Now we begin tonight with a directive from the Air Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sunday Kevin Aneke, ordering all air component commanders from Nigeria's operational theaters to intensify precision strikes against terrorists and other criminal elements across the country. According to the Director of Public Relations and Information, Air Commodore Ahime Ejodame, the Air Chief, made the charge in a meeting in Abuja convened to recalibrate the NAF's position, the NAF's operational focus under the new leadership, and to strengthen synergy across commands. While Air Marshal Aneke declared that the emerging security landscape demands agility, intelligence, and enhanced lethality, he stressed that the evolving nature of threats across theaters requires full synchronization of air, land, and maritime operations to achieve joint mission success. To labor matters now. Resident doctors in the Federal Capital Territory have insisted that the ongoing indefinite strike will continue despite the partial payment received from the federal government. The president of the association, FCTA chapter George Ebong, on Wednesday said some doctors who had been owed salaries in training funds had finally received payment after years of waiting. According to him, 28 doctors who had been owed salaries arrears ranging from 1 month to 1 year for over 2 years were paid on Monday night. He added that payments had also commenced for the Medical Residency Training Fund, the MRTF. Of the 150 doctors owed, 103 had been paid, leaving 47 without their entitlements. Now I'm joined by Dr. George Ebong himself, president of the resident doctors in the Federal Capital Territory. Thank you very much, doctor, for joining us.
Thank you very much for the invite. Good evening.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Good, doctor. So the FCT administration says it has approved payments of your arrears and implemented some of your earlier demands. Yet doctors remain on strike and hospitals are still not running at full capacity. So if these approvals have been made, what exactly is still holding things up?
Thank you once again. So we have always had this problem of trying to fix this problem. These problems once and for all, and each time we try to fix it, we always go back to where we were the first time. Recall that 6 weeks ago we suspended our strike because the Senate intervened, and the minister also approved. He made the pronouncement in public that is approved, and it took like another strike for us to even see just 2 of those approvals implemented. So that's the problem. So there's an approval, there is an implementation, and it takes a lot of time. Whatever is in between, we have no idea. But if you've owed people for that long and you've made some approval, I think it is just very important that the implementation is done as soon as possible so that the workers can have faith in the system. Right now we don't have faith in the system, and that is why even though there are trickles of payments, but because we know it has been a history of when they start paying, they expect us to suspend the shutdown, and when we do, then they stop every other payment.
So doctor,
that is why the Congress is not.
So doctor, sorry to butt in, doctor, but in all of this, I wanted to, there's so many questions I need to ask you. In all of this, has a timeline been given by the FCTA?
And that is the problem. We even gave them a timeline so that we could work together with a timeline, but they don't have a timeline for us. They just tell us they're going to do something. Give us a timeline so we can take this information back to the Congress. They don't have a timeline. So it's like a blank check. And that is not something the Congress is going to accept as a working document.
So, doctor, it's not the first time that we've had doctors down their tools. There's been many issues, some of them regarding wages, if I'm not mistaken. Well, mostly about wages, poor working conditions. And each time there's an agreement, there's always a relapse by the stakeholders here. Now, what exactly needs to change in how the FCTA handles staff welfare to stop the cycle from happening again and again?
they need to learn that when they have an agreement with doctors, for example, or nurses or pharmacists or workers in general, they need to learn that they have to be truthful and trustworthy. They have to earn that trust. So the next time they say, you know what, go back to work, we're going to do this, people can believe in them. So all along, these arrears have accumulated because each time they tell us go back to work, we go back to work, and then they betray that trust. And that is why you see all these arrears are just there: skipping arrears, promotion arrears, post-part 2 conversion arrears, salary arrears, So it's been there for those years because we believe all the time in them, but they actually don't actually do the things they said they're going to do. And that is why, let me give an example. Like now, the hazard allowance has been there since 2021. And this present administration doesn't see the need to pay because they feel that it wasn't during their time that hazard allowance owed. So you can see the complication now. But then government is continuum, okay? Now, when we owed this money in 2021, because we believe in the government of that time, they told us, you know what, go back to work. We're going to pay you this money. And this is 4 years now. They've not paid that money. And we know that the value of that money then and the value of the money now is totally different. So we are tired of always being the one that are being shortchanged all the time.
Okay.
And that's why we're saying, do all the demands and then we'll suspend the strike.
Okay, then, Doctor, also, one of your demands is not just about money, it's also about staffing and infrastructure. Talk about overcrowded wards, updated equipment, and also shortage in personnel. So since the last round of talks with the FCTA, have there been any visible improvements? Have there been new hires, renovations, or better equipment? Are hospitals still operating below standards?
Below standard, even though the minister actually said that it was going to phase hospitals soon, and we really want to believe in what he said. But for now, nothing has been done.
So like it or not...
That works, but implementation, no.
Okay. Well, Doctor, whether you like it or not, strikes, they take a toll on patients. People lose loved ones during these strikes, and the public begins to lose faith, just like you've lost faith in the FCTA, but they lose faith in the health system itself altogether. Many residents feel trapped between the government delays and also doctors who withhold their services. And there is that thing about the theocrat, what's it called again? The doctor's oath. So how do you balance your members' legitimate grievance with your duty to patients? And what message do you have for the FCT residents now who are caught in between this fight?
Thank you. So the problem now, in as much as we are actually supposed to save lives, we are also actually supposed to do no harm to our patient. And I will tell you, because of the unfavorable working condition and the severe shortage of manpower, the doctors are actually beginning to cause harms on our patient because of mental fatigue, over-labored working hours, and etc. So I think it's even better that we don't commit unforced errors on our patients' health just because we want to try to do what we can't even do because we're tired. We're humans, and sincerely, we can't give what we don't have. When you have a doctor who will run 3, 4, 5 wards, who will be in the hospital for 2, 3 days, a doctor who will do like 7, 8, 9, 10 cesarean section a day, I think that is not even a good practice on our patient. In fact, that should amount to medical quackery when a doctor will be doing like 10, 11 CS a day. That is very, very unprofessional.
Dr. George, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight to have this conversation. We do hope that this situation clears up, well, hopefully before the end of tomorrow. We'll continue to follow the story, and of course, we always have you as a resource. Thank you, Doctor. Welcome back. You're watching Tonight on News Central. Now, a reminder of our top stories. Chief of Air Staff directs all air component commanders to intensify precision strikes against terrorists. Wike faction announces suspension of PDP convention as conflicting court judgments further plunge party into crises. And Democrats win big as Dorhan Mamdani elected New York mayor, becoming first Muslim and South Asian to lead U.S. city. Tensions within the People's Democratic Party deepened on Wednesday as the factional National Working Committee linked with the Minister of the FCT announced the suspension of the proposed National Convention. Citing the need to uphold the rule of law pending the outcome of ongoing court cases, the acting national chairman, Alhaji Abdul Rahman Mohammed, explained that the faction had obtained the certified true copy of the Federal High Court judgment delivered by Justice Omotosho in Abuja. He said this prompted the decision to pause all arrangements for the convention until legal issues are resolved. He added that going ahead with the convention now would amount to disobeying an existing court judgment, insisting that PDP must set the right example. Two federal high courts could have earlier delivered conflicting judgments, which have further thrown the party into confusion over its planned elective national convention, which was slated for November 15 and 16, 2025. Now to judicial matters, more judicial matters. Activist and politician Omoyele Sowore has escaped a possible bench warrant for his arrest after failing to appear in court for his arraignment on defamation. During Wednesday's sitting, counsel to the Department of State Services and Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Akinlolu Akinde, urged the presiding judge, Justice Mohammed Umar, to issue a bench warrant for the arrest of Sowore. The court that Sowore had been duly served with the charges against him, including a hearing notice, but still refused to appear. The judge consequently directed that all parties be properly served and adjourned the matter to December 2, 2025, for Showore's arraignment to take place.
The matter couldn't go on because for reasons best known to the first defendant, he didn't come to court today. This matter was adjourned at the last adjourned date at the instance of all the parties, and we made sure that hearing notice was served on the first defendant, and he's not here today. Meanwhile, this is the same first defendant who was on News Central yesterday telling the whole world that he will be here, grandstanding and but now let him come and face the charge. He's dodging. The wheel of justice may be slow, but it will definitely get to its destination. So we have another date, 2nd of December 2025, by the grace of God. And the court rightly said, if on that day this game of hide and seek is still being played, the court will do the needful. We actually applied for his bench warrant today. I made that application that should be arrested and kept in custody until the next adjourned date, because that is the proper thing. If you have a criminal charge on your head, you are under an obligation to always be present in court each day the matter comes up.
The blue economy is the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods, and environmental health. Globally, the blue economy is projected to be worth over $3 trillion by 2030, and Nigeria is occupying a central position in West and Central African maritime trade corridors. Against this backdrop, stakeholders believe it is imperative to involve the judiciary, to help support. Now, it's founded on law, order, and justice. And here, News Central's maritime correspondent Nyoma Obi-Atwalo has the report.
The knowledge-sharing colloquium held in Lagos underscores that a vibrant maritime sector cannot thrive without a robust, efficient, and specialized judicial framework to resolve disputes and interpret the ever-evolving complexities of admiralty and shipping law. In its welcome address, the Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency NIMASA, Dr. Dayo Muberola, noted that Nigeria's blue economy requires an all-hands-on-deck approach with the judiciary as a crucial actor.
We need a strong collaboration with the legal structure of Nigeria to get them to understand the changes and dynamics of international maritime law, which has been changing regularly and persistently. We really want them to be on top of it and also help us to interpret some of those legal conventions. And so it's key, because what we do in maritime is international trade, which involves all the other countries of the world, and most importantly, every country has more or less its own law.
The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Honorable Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, ably represented, in her keynote address, noted that harnessing the full benefits of Nigeria's maritime endowment faces persistent challenges, including illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing, oil theft, and pipeline vandalism, piracy, and armed robbery against ships.
She says it is with immense pleasure and a deep sense of responsibility that I address this distinguished gathering of judicial officers and maritime stakeholders at this important colloquium devoted to the discourse on charting the course for Nigeria's blue economy. This colloquium is both timely and significant. The global discourse on the blue economy, the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods, and environmental health.
On his part, the Director General of the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, Professor Abdulkadir Abika, spoke on collaboration and the impact of this colloquium.
The aim is to bring all our judges that are responsible for taking up dispute relating to maritime issue, to let them have a good grasp and understanding, further understanding of maritime-related issue.
The expectation after this event is that the judiciary will stand as a key pillar in the architecture of this emerging frontier, ensuring that disputes are resolved with competence, maritime laws interpreted with clarity and foresight, and justice dispensed in a manner that holds higher standards of fairness and supports national development. In Lagos, for News Central, Norma Obiaswalo.
Welcome back. Outside Nigeria, Libyan authorities have detained Osama al-Masri Najim, a former police chief and key figure wanted by the International Criminal Court for serious war crimes. The Tripoli prosecutor's office revealed Najim is accused of torturing prisoners at the main prison in the capital, including abuse leading to the death of one detainee. Najim was previously arrested in Italy in January on an ICC warrant, but was controversially released and flown back to Libya. The United Nations mission in Libya has called for a full investigation or transfer of Najim to the ICC for trial. Now, Democrats scored notable victories in the 2025 U.S. mayoral races across the United States. Zoran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist, won the spotlight race in New York City, becoming the city's first Muslim mayor and its youngest leader in generations. In New Jersey, Democrat Mickey Sherrill held onto her governorship. Virginia voters chose Democrat Abigail Spanberger as their new governor, while California voters approved Proposition 50, granting lawmakers the power to redraw congressional districts. Other key Democratic winners include Aftab Pureval in Cincinnati, Andre Dickens in Atlanta, Mary Sherfield in Detroit, who becomes the city's first female mayor, and Cory O'Connor in Pittsburgh. These results mark an important moment for Democrats during President Trump's second term. Now, Mukesh Kapila is a professor of global health and humanitarian affairs and has been following U.S. politics, especially New York. He joins me now for a discussion on the just concluded elections. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us. Before I bet you remember, I just told you I have very interesting questions for you. So, New York just elected their mayor, who ran on ending inequality, no rent on rent freezes, free transport, on childcare for all. It's a populist idealist pitch in a city driven by profit. I don't know if you agree. And yet people voted for that message, and loudly. So, Professor, what does that tell us about where public faith now rests? Are we seeing a moral rebellion against economic systems that people feel have failed them?
Well, New York might be a paradigm for capitalism, but quite frankly, many of the ordinary citizens of New York have been suffering from huge economic hardship. And so what they voted for is hope. And Mamdani used the politics of hope extremely effectively. Now, whether that reflects some kind of rebellion on the part of New Yorkers would be too much to say. I think they want to change, and they want more affordable lifestyles, and I think that's really what they voted for, because that's what Mamdani promised.
So Mamdani's campaign spoke directly to human needs, spoke about housing, dignity, fairness, the things humanitarian frameworks often emphasize. From your experience in development and governance, how can leaders bridge that gap between human-centered promises and the practical limits of public systems?
Well, firstly, your latter point, I think public systems are always overstretched in any country, in any place. And so I think promising that public systems and institutions will meet all human needs anywhere would be a rash promise. But what the authorities can do is to act fairly so that there is a balance between citizens' rights and duties and responsibilities, between institutions of capitalism and the institutions of consumption, so that there is fairness. So I think the only way to have a sustainable system which is fair, which meets basic human needs, is that if people are treated fairly, and the system as a whole, particularly institutions and regulations, work fairly for everyone. Now, in America, that fairness has suffered immensely recently. So the hope is that Mamdani will do something about that, at least as far as his writ runs in New York.
Well, let's hope that the cut funding that he's been threatened with by the president doesn't stop him from achieving that. But, Professor, do you think this is a one-off? Mamdani feels like a left-wing populism that's idealist. Do you see this as part of a wider global shift where frustration like inequality is creating new kinds of people or populists? Like, do you think this is a one-off?
I wish I could say it was signaling a wider shift, but to be honest, it's too early to say that. I think, firstly, New York is not representative of the wider United States. Secondly, I think the general politics of the US, even the democratic politics, is not into rebellion in any big sense or countering the orthodoxy. So whether or not this means a real shift in US politics towards better social policies, I think only time is going to tell. But if Mamdani doesn't deliver in New York, it'll be bad news for others who wish to make that shift.
So when a major Western city chooses a radical mayor like Mamdani on a platform of equity, it sends signals from beyond America. How might this reshape conversations around governance and social justice in other democracies, like maybe here in Nigeria, for instance?
Well, a very good question. I think what happens in New York is certainly extremely important in terms of signaling to the whole world, where every country has its own share of inequalities and injustices. And therefore, I think many people will take heart from this victory, but they're holding their breath, because I think it's also important to note that the recent experience of popular politics has been always disappointing. So people come in, they make big speeches, they promise all sorts of things, and they fail to deliver, usually because of externalities, circumstances outside their own control. And then people are disappointed, and then, of course, the whole cycle starts again. So I think it's better to promise too little and deliver more than what you promise. And I think Mamdani's made the error that is overpromise, and I don't think he's going to deliver. But the rest of the world should actually cautiously hope that perhaps it is an example of what could be progressive politics elsewhere.
Now, it does seem like a rebellion of the people that they want to go in that direction. And I'm wondering if this is going to be replayed in other states and other countries as well, where people rebel against the government despite whatever gains most of or some of or certain sectors might have in the government.
Well, these things come in cycles, as you know. So we've had a conservative moment, a right-wing moment, which is not gone yet. It's prominent, and you only have to look at Europe, for example, where rightish governments are in power in most countries. But I think the leftish side is beginning to regain its mojo and is fighting back. We see that in the Netherlands, obviously in the UK, and possibly also in France. I think these are cycles that come and go, and this cycle will also turn.
Yeah, I like the bit about regaining their mojo. Professor Kapila, thank you very much for joining us on Tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be back with business, sports, and of course, entertainment. Stay with us.
The Nigerian Senate has received an interim report from its ad hoc committee investigating crude oil theft, revealing that Nigeria may have lost over $300 billion in unaccounted crude proceeds due to collusion, weak oversight, and sabotage. Committee Chairman Senator Ned Nwoko said forensic reviews showed missing revenues of $22 billion, $81 billion, and $200 billion across different periods. The report recommends stricter enforcement of oil measurement standards, drone-based surveillance, special courts for oil theft, and a Maritime Trust Fund. Nigeria's latest Eurobond issuance has been oversubscribed by more than 400%, attracting over $9.1 billion in investor bids, despite geopolitical tension triggered by U.S. President Donald Trump's threat of possible military action. The dual tranche offer, a $700 million 10-year note and a $1.5 billion 20-year note, recorded strong demand, with the shorter tranche oversubscribed 7 times. The bonds were priced at 8.75% and 9.25%, supported by Nigeria's ongoing fiscal reforms and recent credit outlook upgrades. We return with the market report after this break. All right, so let's move on to the stock market report. The bears took charge at the Nigerian exchange today, clawing the all-share index down by 1.19%, and the all-share index closed at 150,812.02 basis points, and the market capped out at 97.82 trillion naira, as losses across consumer and industrial goods weighed on sentiment, with oil and gas being the lone bright spot in an otherwise gloomy session. But let's see what the sectoral performance really says today. All right, so we have losses in the banking sector dropping at 0.19%. Insurance also closed in the red at 0.08%. Consumer goods was down 1.02%. Industrial goods was also down 1.16%. And as I said, the only lone shining star today was oil and gas, which closed in the green at 0.22%. And that's how the market wrapped, with oil stocks doing the heavy lifting while the rest took a breather. Investors will be watching closely to see if the bulls can stage a comeback tomorrow. Well, that's all on Business Tonight. My name is Chamun Dabeng.
Reigning Nigeria Premier League champions Remo Stars have denied reports that head coach Daniel Ogumodede has been sacked, confirming he remains in charge of the team. In an official statement made today, the club revealed Ogumodede is currently in Abuja, completing a CAF B coaching course as part of his professional development. The club also stated that he will continue his duties with the Nigerian national team ahead of the FIFA World Cup, African playoffs, and the Africa Cup of Nations later this year. Remo Stars were eliminated from the CAF Champions League after a 7-1 aggregate loss to Mamelodi Sundowns and are currently in 17th place on the league table with 4 games in hand. The next match is tomorrow in Lafia against second place Nasarawa United. World Football Governing Body FIFA today announced a new annual award called the FIFA Peace Prize, which will be given to its first winner during the 2026 World Cup Finals draw in Washington, D.C. next month. Dubbed the FIFA Peace Prize, Football Unites the World, FIFA said it was created to reward individuals who have taken exceptional and extraordinary actions for peace. The 2026 FIFA World Cup draw will take place on December 5th at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, where 48 teams will learn their group stage opponents. The World Cup will be held in the United States, Canada, and Mexico from June 11th to July 19th, with a record 104 matches in 16 host cities. It's panic situations in Morocco at the moment after the North African nation learned that national team star and Paris Saint-Germain right back Achraf Hakimi has been ruled out for several weeks with a severely sprained left ankle. The injury to his captain, or rather the injury to the captain, will be a major concern for Atlas Lions coach Walid Regragui ahead of the start of the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, which is being hosted by Morocco for the first time since 1988. The tournament kicks off in less than 7 weeks on the 21st of December. The 27-year-old sustained the injury in Tuesday's 2-1 loss to Bayern Munich in the Champions League, and he left the pitch in tears in the first half stoppage time after a rash challenge from behind Colombia winger Luis Diaz, who was subsequently sent off after a VAR review. Finally on sports, Francis Ngannou has accused Jake Paul of disrespect after the YouTuber-turned-boxer reportedly reached out for a potential fight. Paul, who scheduled November 14th bout with Gervonta Davis, collapsed, sought a new opponent and inquired about facing the former UFC heavyweight champion. Ngannou dismissed the idea, calling the proposal nonsensical given their size and experience differences. Paul has won 12 out of 13 bouts, including a recent win over Mike Tyson. Ngannou, meanwhile, gained respect in boxing after knocking down Tyson Fury in his debut before being stopped by Anthony Joshua. The exchange has reignited debates over Paul's boxing ambitions and his tendency to chase high-profile but unconventional matchups. That's all on Sports News tonight. Entertainment is next with Kate.
And it's time for entertainment. And of course, Kate is here this evening to bring it to us. Kate, what do we have?
Hi, Mazino. How are you doing today? I must say, it's about time for me to come and raid your wardrobe, though. Maybe I will make use of some of these jackets.
Oh, I'm delighted then.
Welcome to the world of entertainment. Now, a federal high court in Lagos has ordered the interim forfeiture of Proxy Lagos, a popular Victoria Island nightclub co-owned by nightlife promoter Pretty Mike and Joachim Hilary. The order followed an application by the NDLEA, which alleged the club was being used for the storage and distribution of illegal substances. Now, according to court documents, operatives recovered 169 cylinders containing 384 kilograms of nitrous oxide, commonly known as laughing gas, and 200 grams of cannabis from the venue. Now, the NDLEA said the nightclub served as a hub for illicit drug activities ahead of a scheduled party. Justice Musa Kakaki granted the agency's ex parte motion, directing that the nightclub be temporarily seized as an instrumentality of crime and halting all business operations on the premises. Now, the matter has been adjourned to January 28, 2026 for further hearing. Now, moving on in the world of entertainment, after years of legal back and forth, Nicole Scherzinger and Pussycat Dolls founder Robin Antin have officially settled their lawsuits out of court. Antin had sued Scherzinger in 2021, alleging that the singer demanded a bigger share and greater creative control over the group's planned reunion tour. Now, Scherzinger denied the allegations, insisting she had already invested in the comeback project before internal disagreement halted the reunion. Both parties have now reached a confidential settlement, leading to the case's dismissal with prejudice, meaning it cannot be refiled. Now, the resolution brings an end to one of pop's most drawn-out behind-the-scenes feuds, and fans are already speculating that this truce could open doors for a potential Pussycat Dolls revival in the near future. Mazino, we had a conversation about this off air with regards to the Pretty Mike situation. What's your take on it again?
Well, first of all, I didn't know he had a club. So that's very surprising. Then I'm not surprised, however, what happens inside of these clubs, because it seems to be something that people are or used to. They go to these clubs because they want to have a nice time, and well, this is not something I espouse to, and this often involves the use of drugs, especially gateway drugs like the ones that we're seeing. Yeah.
Interesting times, really. Well, that's the news tonight on Entertainment. My name is Kate Adiogun.
And that's the news tonight. But before we go, here's a reminder of our top stories. Chief of Air Staff directs all air component commanders to intensify precision strikes against terrorists. And Wike faction announces suspension of PDP convention as conflicting court judgments further plunge party into crises. Democrats win big as Zohran Mamdani elected New York mayor, becoming first Muslim and South Asian to lead U.S. city. Now to remember, you can send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number being displayed on your screens now. And follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Go TV 23, Star Times 274, Avo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.